It started on a freezing winter night in 1932. The roads of Archer Avenue in Justice, Illinois, were slick with ice. The barren trees swayed like skeletal hands, and the distant glow of streetlights barely cut through the thick fog that clung to the earth like a phantom's breath. Mary Wojciechowski was just 19, a beautiful young woman with golden hair and piercing blue eyes. She had spent the evening at the Oh Henry Ballroom, a lively place where jazz music thrummed through the air and laughter mixed with the scent of cheap gin and cigarette smoke. She loved to dance, twirling through the night with the elegance of a ghost before dawn. But that evening, something felt off. As she stepped outside, wrapping her thin coat around her shoulders, a strange sensation slithered up her spine, a whisper of cold that had nothing to do with the winter air. The ballroom doors shut behind her with a hollow thud, sealing her off from the warmth and laughter inside. Outside, the night lay unnaturally still. The gas lamps flickered feebly against the heavy mist rolling in from the river, their light barely piercing the darkness. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Mary hesitated. Something about the silence felt wrong. She shook off the eerie feeling and stepped forward, her heels clicking softly against the pavement as she began her walk home along Archer Avenue. The mist clung to her like a living thing, coiling around her legs, its damp breath curling against her cheeks. The chill deepened, settling into her bones. Then she heard it. Footsteps. Not hers. Slow, deliberate, crunching through the icy slush behind her. She quickened her pace. The footsteps followed. Mary turned sharply, her heart hammering against her ribs. No one. Only the shifting fog, thick and swirling, moving in unnatural patterns across the road. She let out a shaky breath, forcing a laugh. You're imagining things. But then, something shifted in the mist. A shape, a shadow. No more than a blur, yet undeniably there. Watching. Waiting. Mary took another step. The shape moved too. Her breath hitched. This was no trick of the light. A frigid gust whispered through the trees, carrying something with it. A voice so faint it might have been mistaken for the wind. Mary, she stumbled, her pulse thundering in her ears. A hand, ice cold, impossibly strong, clamped onto her wrist. Her scream never left her lips. A force, unseen but powerful, yanked her off the road and into the frozen woods beside Resurrection Cemetery. The world tilted as she thrashed, clawing at the air, her heels digging uselessly into the earth. Her breath came in frantic, desperate gasps. Shadows twisted around her, writhing like hungry things, their whispers hissing through the trees. Then the voice, low, ancient, a rasp that sent splinters of ice down her spine. Dance with me, Mary. The shadows solidified. Someone stood before her. It had no true form, shifting and writhing like living darkness, its edges dissolving into the night. Yet she could feel it. Its presence loomed over her, crushing, suffocating. Then it pulled her close. A hand, black as the void, gripped her waist. Another entwined her fingers, its touch burning with an unnatural cold. And Mary, helpless, frozen, drowning in terror, felt her body betray her. Her feet moved. A twisted, agonizing waltz began, guided by an invisible melody that only the spectre could hear. The ground beneath her was no longer solid, but shifting, warping, an endless expanse of black ice stretching into oblivion. Around her, the trees bled into formless shadows, their branches clawing at the sky like skeletal fingers. The spectre's grip tightened. Its hollow breath, reeking of decay and winter, brushed against her cheek. She tried to scream. No sound came. Pain lanced through her limbs as the waltz quickened, her body contorting, twisting in ways no human should move. Cold fire coursed through her veins, spreading, devouring. She was sinking, unraveling, becoming part of the darkness. Then nothing. By sunrise, Mary Wojciechowski was found near the cemetery gates. Her once vibrant eyes, frozen open, stared into the void. Her body, twisted, contorted, caught in the final step of a dance, showed no signs of struggle, no bruises, no wounds, only the lingering frost clinging to her pale skin. Her heart had stopped, but her body had not decayed. It was as though time had forgotten her. The town whispered, Some said she had been attacked. Others claimed something far worse had lured her into the woods. But the cemetery workers, the ones who had found her, refused to speak of what they saw that morning. Their hands trembled as they shut the iron gates for the night, their faces pale with something deeper than fear. But the story did not end there. A week after Mary was buried, the sightings began. A girl in a white dress, wandering Archer Avenue, seeking a ride. Taxi drivers, drunkards, travelers, they all saw her. Her golden hair shimmered in the moonlight, her blue eyes hollow and longing. She climbed into cars without a sound, her presence sending an unnatural chill through the air. Some claimed she spoke in whispers, her voice no louder than the wind slipping through cracked windows. Others said she sat in silence, her fingers tracing invisible patterns on the frost-covered glass. And then, as they neared Resurrection Cemetery, she would vanish. One driver swore he saw her reflection in the rearview mirror as she disappeared. Her lips parted in a silent scream, her eyes wide with a terror that did not belong to this world. Decades passed, but the sightings never stopped. Men who danced with her at the ballroom woke to find their hands covered in frost, their dreams haunted by a melody they could never place. Some swore they heard her voice among the tombstones at night, whispering through the darkness, pleading for someone to take her home. But there was no home left for Mary. Only the road, the endless waltz, and the cold, clawing grasp of something still waiting in the fog, something that still whispers, "Dance with me."